So we had quite a few questions, a lot of email feedback, which is great because that's the only way we know of, is are we presenting it in a way that it's understandable or not. As we've said, I think early in this course, I think we said before you probably signed up for this course, and we will repeat throughout the course, this is a crazy, crazy course. I mean, this an 8-hour course with a lot of information, a lot of math intensive and concept intensive material being presented very quickly, and then everything builds on itself. So it's not like you're learning history where if you don't really understand some little part of it, you can kind of understand a different discrete part. Everything builds on itself. So if you get thoroughly lost on some areas, now if you're kind of fuzzy on how to delineate a drainage area, but you know how to do the calcs, you're probably, you're fine. You can work on the area delineation as long as you know the process. But if you don't know what a drainage area is, or you're not able, if you can't figure out how to calculate, your runoff volumes as we go through that, then you're not going to be able to size your BMPs when we go on to that next step. So it is very important to know that. That being said, I'm kind of reiterating some things that we've said before, but it is very, very important to take the time to muddle through my lectures online. If there's a concept that you don't understand in class, on the online lectures, I tried really hard to move pretty slowly and to document the math step by step. Here's the calculation. I tried as well as I could to show this is where these dimensions came from, or this is where this came from. So that, I'm happy to work with anybody as we're moving along really quick with this, but I'd say the first step, I'm probably not going to explain it as concisely in class again as I did on the video, because on the video I actually prepared for it, where in class I'm like, oh yeah, here's how I normally do it. So you're getting just random brain cell interference on those. Also, I know that on the homework that I assign, which I'm going to go over in a minute, and on some of the other things, a general comment we've had on a few of these assignments so far in class is that there's a lot of information. It's kind of hard to tell what is important and what's not. And there's a balance there. So I don't want to just inundate you with information that has nothing to do with what we're doing, because I want you to be able to get the core concepts and understand that. But on the other hand, when you're actually doing this in the field, when you're actually out there designing something, nobody's going to give you a sheet of paper that has the pertinent information on it and only the pertinent information on it. When you think about it, if it's just you going out to look at a residential site to look at some potential for BMPs, all the information in the world is out there. Temperature, humidity, what kind of soils do you have, what's the neighbor's yard look like, topography, rainfall. There's tons of information out there, and nobody's going to say these are the pieces that are important and these are the pieces that you can just, they're there, they might be interesting, but in my mind, maybe it's just the way engineers are programmed, all that stuff becomes an SEP. It's just somebody else's problem. There's a drainage gully there that looks like hell, but you know what? It's not in the area that I'm working on. Just really where, you want to look and kind of get that big picture, but you can pretty quickly iron out, this is the information I need to know. So like on the homework assignment, there's areas of roof and downspouts that you didn't have to calculate the drainage area for. You could do it. Didn't hurt anything. It's probably not bad practice, although it's a rectangle, not a real challenging calculation there. But I'm lazy. And laziness can sometimes lead to efficiency. And that's really, I try not to calculate anything I don't need. So when I'm looking at a downspout, I'm looking at a drainage area. Once I determine what my, kind of my perimeter, my area of interest is, anything outside that, I'm not going to waste time calculating that, because there's really, it's no advantage to the project, and it just gives me another set of numbers that can get confused or end up in my calculations when they shouldn't be. So I try to do that. So I think what I'm going to do, the BMP outline, I think I'm going to save that a little bit more for Lauren, because she's actually been getting those and reviewing those. So we'll cover that when we get back. What I'd like to do is just go over the homework first, and I've got an electronic copy of it up here. So everybody just keep yours with you, and we're just gonna kind of walk through it. And Allison, depending on how the swim meet goes, if they have a massive party and they throw everything out of your car to fit in, 6 more kids to go, to celebrate or something, that's okay. But you can just get me your copy next class or something.
I know what I did, what I was.
So it's no problem.